Welcome into the latest edition of the Bump Fake, everybody. Jerry Bailey with you as always, joined today by my good friend Mike Tanier of the Two Deep Zone Substack. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Doing well. We got what? 2 weeks and a day left until the draft.
Yeah. Yep.
I like to say we get our lives back, but then we sort of shift into like downshift into like dead season mode for a while. But you get a couple days off along the way. I start working on the almanac. It's a little bit of a different feel.
I'm excited for that to come out. It's always a good time when when almanac season rolls around, when we get that's always a fun time of year.
Right. You won't see it until late July, but we know we're doing it this year, which is a step up from last year, where like during this time of the year, like no one was even speaking to each other. It was very ugly, etc. And then like some point in June, Aaron sent out like, "Hey, we might be able to do a book," and we're all like, "Thank God, thank God." And then we got it out late. This year it's coming out on time. We've already got some projections. I can't talk about them, but we have projections.
Sure.
And that's a fun thing to do in June. Blessed are those who don't have to do SEO nonsense all through May, all through June. Like somebody said something on Instagram, put 800 words now, get it done, go. We don't have to do that. We can stop and take a deep breath and say, well, let's do some real projections and make one good big thing instead of a million crappy little things.
That's the dream, isn't it? How can we segue from crappy things to Dak Prescott? We're gonna try our hardest. This whole thing that seems to be emerging out of Dallas, where, okay, is Dak going to re-sign? Is he really going to be a free agent next year? I'm leaning toward he's going to test the open market because A, why wouldn't he want to?
Right.
And B, if you're Dallas, man, I mean, they've been doing this thing for nearly a decade. It at some point for both parties involved, it feels just like endlessly hitting your head against a wall, hoping for a different result. I think I have my own theory about what's going to happen with Dak, but I want your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm eager to hear your theory, but you're right. We can sit there and say, well, Dak's a top 10 quarterback. He's 8th or 9th or 11th or whatever. And all true. You're right. You reach a point where it's diminishing returns. You reach a point where both parties, Dak and the Cowboys, look at each other and say, this isn't working out. We've been doing this for 6-7 years. It's not working out. That's fine. Did you hear or read the story coming out of Dallas? And it's from like a radio host, but it's from a radio host who does the show with Jerry.
No, I didn't.
That the team is getting tired of Micah Parsons's.
Oh, yes, I did see that, which is very much them just being like, okay, how can we lowball this guy and try to get it out there that he's a bad teammate or anything like that, so we don't have to pay him as much money as he deserves.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And if that's what it is, it's stupid. You can't lowball everybody.
Yeah.
This is not how you do business in the NFL. Let's crap all over our players. Let's be publicly shitty about it. And then they're all going to come back to, oh my God, I don't know what my market value is because you're mad at me. No, they're going to walk away from you. Yeah. They're going to walk away from me. Or what normally happens in Dallas, they wait and they realize Cowboys need Micah more than Micah needs the Cowboys. So you wind up paying a premium. That's what happened with Ezekiel Elliott because they ran that one to the end. That's really what happened with Dak when they ran a franchise year with Dak. And then they signed him. It's like, oh, we'll play chicken with you. And Dak's like, yeah, sure, I'll play chicken. I'll play chicken. You have to pay me a 20% raise with the franchise. Then it would be another, whatever it is, 25% the second year. I'll play chicken with you. And they couldn't play chicken anymore. The Cowboys can't do that with everybody. If they're tired of Dak, fine. If they're lowballing Micah, fine. What did they say about CD Lamb? It's like, oh, we don't want to have to go out 3 or 4 guys to keep CD Lamb.
And he's already getting antsy about getting paid too. So, I mean, you got 3 guys there that all need paid. And
3 guys.
The
3 guys.
The 3 guys for Dallas. And with Micah Parsons now, Josh Allen just got a 5-year, $150 million extension. He's going to be looking at Jerry Jones and saying, I'm getting at least that or I'm leaving. So, and he should. He's better than Josh Allen. He deserves more money than Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's great, but he's not Micah Parsons.
Better than Brian Burns. He's better than Brian Burns, who got paid to wazoo by the Giants. Yes. So
it's a big. How do I want to compare this? It's like and Everybody Loves Raymond, Marie, how she like has a big control on the family, and whenever Robert, did you watch Everybody Loves Raymond?
Very little, but I can follow this.
Okay, so when Robert marries his wife Amy, and then Ray Romano's wife in the show, Deborah, like tries telling Amy, like, don't get suckered into Marie's like crap, fight back. fight the power, and then eventually she just succumbs, and Deborah's just pissed off because like she's the only one that sees Marie's just like this overarching villain. I think kind of where the Dallas Cowboys are is they're just under this reign of just an odd way of running a franchise, and it hasn't really changed.
Yeah, when my mom got into her 80s, like she started completely losing track of money, and there was money in the freezer, and like in between the slats of the Bible and everything. But like she had some savings in the account. She was not a poor woman, but like, do I have enough money to get a haircut? It's too expensive anymore. They expect a $10 tip. It's like, Mom, you have enough money to buy a haircut and go to lunch with your friends and put money in the collection plate and do all of these things. And she wouldn't listen. I worry Jerry's there. Like, these edge rushers are too expensive, and so head coaches are too expensive. He's complaining about having to pay Mike McCarthy any dead money if he extends his contract. Now, and again, maybe you're sick of Mike McCarthy. I get it. Maybe you're sick of Dak. I get it. Maybe you're sick of Mike McCarthy. You can't be sick of everybody because then you just have to sell the team. But I worry that he's like at this point where it's like, I don't want to spend my money anymore. I want to build a pyramid for when I die. And that he's going to take the Cowboys down with him. That's not how he used to be. He used to be like, I spend money everywhere, and that was the stupidity. Now it's like switched to, I don't spend money anywhere, and that's the foolish decision.
Yeah, and the thing with my theory with Dak is this. I think that, and of course this involves another thing happening, but walk with me.
Okay.
Assuming that Dak does become a free agent in 2025, which I think he will.
Yeah.
There's going to be another team that is going to want to upgrade at quarterback once they realize, okay, this is where our ceiling is with the current guy that we have. I don't know what's happening outside my apartment building right now. I don't know if anybody can hear that watching, but
like police and stuff, or
no, it's just music. I don't know,
okay.
But okay, yeah. But I think that there's another team that's going to realize, okay, we've hit a ceiling more than once in terms of trying it with this guy, but it's very clear that this ceiling is low. They're not going to extend their quarterback. I think that Dak Prescott, Miami Dolphins quarterback 2025 is very much in play.
That makes sense because you can see a ceiling on Tua.
Yeah.
And you can say, I hit that ceiling of Tua. Forget, I'm going to go up to the Dak ceiling, which is a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to pay a ton of money, I might as well do it for him. That's one. Buccaneers are one. There are some teams that are like cash strapped, like the Saints and Raiders, who you could see doing it, but you don't know how.
I can't be bothered by the way to care about the New Orleans Saints anymore. I'm done. I will not put any sort of interest, and I will be very. I did it in the my inaugural power rankings coming out of free agency for Touchdown Wire. I was like, look, I cannot be bothered to care about this team that has been the exact same for the past 3 years, kicking this can down the road. So, we'll bring in a Chase Young, a Willie Gay. That'll really get us over the hump. But no, it won't, man. You got a quarterback that took a step back in Derek Carr. I can't be bothered to care. So they're going to be cash strapped for, I think, the rest of eternity because they're another franchise that doesn't seem to be changing their ways because they think they're one move away from being great.
Ryan Ramczyk might have a career-ending injury. We have to extend his contract. We can't cut him or anything else like that because it would be too expensive. We have to extend the contract to make it work with cap space. Yeah, I used to have these arguments. I guess it was like I would probably have to be 2021 because it has to be after Breeze is gone. With like the Saints fans and Saints bloggers, it's like you don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as the cap. Look what we're doing. Look what we're doing. And then like by like middle of last year, they were like, yeah, okay, you're right. This is a bad idea.
Yeah,
this didn't work. But like the Seahawks are a team that could be saying 2025 Dak. Dolphins are a team to say 20. There's always a team a year down the road that could say we need to move on from our quarterback once you take out the teams with their rookies and the teams who just paid the guy.
What about the Broncos 2025 Dak?
The cap thing with Russ, because they have to spread Russ over 2 years.
Right.
That's the because normally you look at like, yeah, that would be a fit. But then I don't know if they can afford it.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And they are going to pay at least one of them. If I had to guess, it's going to be Micah Parsons.
Yes.
And I think CeeDee Lamb, but then who's throwing him the ball? You can't pay all of them because all of them are going to be garnering premium money. And also the Cowboys have been weirdly they're always one of those more fascinating teams for all the wrong reasons when it comes to the draft. Where we're like, okay, they'll probably take, a corner and they take like a defensive line. We're like, oh, okay. And sure.
And he turns out good.
Yeah. Like they they don't draft for need, but the guy that they take ends up being okay. Or in like the third round, they'll take a guy that's like a sixth round projection just because Jerry likes him. It's like, okay, dude, what? Do your thing. But I don't know. They're a weird team when it comes to the offseason. They haven't done anything this offseason, by the way. I think they've added the former Chargers linebacker. That's it. Eric Kendricks.
Eric Kendricks. Yes, there's like 32.
Yeah.
They let a lot of guys go. And when we talk about paying people, and I did at the 2 Deep Zone, MikeTennier.substack.com. You can see it under my name. I wrote about it last week, and I really had to go a little deep into their financial situation. There is nobody under contract after next year. So you go through next year. There's no, like a lot of teams will have, either a Justin Herbert, or the Saints still have, all their 35-year-olds 2 years down the road. It is a clean slate. Like Zach Martin's contract, Tank Lawrence's contract. If you can name a Cowboy, their contract is up at the end of this year or at the end of next year. So if you start paying guys, you have a guy like CD or Micah Parsons, so it's going to be for 4 years. You want to keep this guy. You can hide the money in 2026. It's a clean cap out there. So you could do that for Dak. You could do that for all three of them and say, we'll put the money in 2026. We'll spread some of it into these 2 years. You can do it. It is possible. Yeah, you would obviously lose some rank and file guys. They lost the rank and file guys anyway. They lost Torrance Armstrong. They lost Tyler Biadasz. They lost Tyron Smith, who's not a rank and file guy, but he's an older guy. So they're just like letting it all run to a stop. They're letting it all roll to a stop. And again, this is a team that won its division last year that should have been a Super Bowl contender, that looks like a Super Bowl contender right now on paper if they do what they're supposed to do. It's nuts. It's crazy.
There's another team that I will always, have at least, around that bubble because where my allegiances lie with a specific quarterback. The Buffalo Bills traded Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans.
Yes.
And on the surface, this felt like, okay, the Bills were just very much tired of the passive aggressiveness from Diggs. The relationship between him and Josh Allen over the last year very much deteriorated from the loss against Cincinnati in the playoffs up until they traded him.
The
McDermott stuff. Yeah, like it was a very rocky year for the Bills. Even though they go on the run at the end of the year to win the division, they win a wild card game, they still couldn't get over that Kansas City hump. And now they're basically just wiping their hands clean. And now they have a massive hole at receiver where your top two receivers right now are Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel, who are fine if they're, threes and fours in an offense, not ones and twos in an offense. So what do you make of it from the Bills' perspective, but also the Texans, who now have Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stefon Diggs for probably a year until he gets free agency next year after they basically bought out or wiped out the rest of his contract so he could test free agency. But at least in 2024, that's a really good receiving trio for Houston. So take me through both sides of this.
Yeah, I have a feeling in Houston they did that to make him happy.
Yep.
And that in midseason, if him and D'Amico and Stroud are all singing Kumbaya, they'll extend him for another year or two. I think that's what the plan is there, But in the short term, get his mind right. And I respect that the Bills got stuck in that situation. Yeah. The problem is the Bills are the second best team in the AFC, supposed to be the second best team. That was a massive hit, and it was massive hit during an off season where I think they did a good job trying to keep as much as they could intact. They didn't lose as much as they could have in the off season. They re-signed some guys. They were very smart, very
they got a godsend gift from Von Miller, who basically voluntarily took a pay cut, which very much helped them. Yeah.
Yes, that was huge. And then they turned around and you re-signed Deion Dawkins so you can push him forward. And you bring in, who'd they bring in at tackle? Was it Jonah Williams?
No, they re-signed Deion Dawkins.
Lael, right?
They signed Lael Collins. Yes.
Right. So it gives you a reinforcement there. You worry about bringing Samuel. It's not bad. You're not doing what you need to do without a replacement for Diggs. And the guy who I keep circling and comes back as the most likely suspect is probably Brandon Ayuk.
Right.
Don't know if he's as good. And to get Ayuk at this, the way I see this playing out is draft starts round 1. Harrison goes off the board. Neighbors goes off the board. Rome goes off the board. Maybe one other guy. And then
the 49ers. Brian Thomas goes off the board or whatever. And the Bills are like, what the hell? Well, let's just trade him.
But at the same time, the Niners are sitting there waiting for somebody to panic because those guys would go off the board pretty quick. There's a lot, especially in the AFC, there's a lot of teams need the receiver. Steelers need the receiver. Obviously, the Chargers are taking probably Harrison, and the Cardinals are probably taking Malik, or the Giants say, we love Daniel Jones, and they take one of them. Then
Wouldn't that be something?
I just saw
Year 6 of the Daniel Jones project.
Kuiper just put a mock draft out
I think it's his last one, he said.
of his life.
No, just of this season.
Oh, okay.
No. I think we would have been more aware if Kuiper was like, "This is the last one I'm ever doing. I'm tired of this shit."
A mushroom cloud.
No, just ahead of the 2024 draft.
And for the Giants, I saw this because Ed Valentine blogged about it. It was Malik Neighbors 1. Then they came back in the second, and Bo Nix was still there.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Sure he will be. Sure he will be. Of course. They're like all these needy teams, and the Giants are going to be sitting there. But, yeah, year 6 of the Daniel Jones project. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'd give it still a 20% chance of happening. Anyway, Bills are going to probably have to bid for Ayuk if they want Ayuk.
Yeah.
And if they try to sit tight, the receiver ain't going to be there if they want. That's going to be what they need, which is a wide receiver one for a Super Bowl team. It's a tough place.
Either way, they have to get aggressive and trade that pick, whether it be for Brandon Ayuk, whether they call Washington and say, "Hey, what can we get? What can we give you for Terry McLaurin?" Or they got to move up. We saw what it took to get Julio Jones for the Falcons, going from 27 to 6, which was a first, a second, a fourth, and then a first and a fourth in the next year's draft, if I'm not mistaken.
Gosh.
So, I mean, if they wanted to go from 28 to 4 to switch with Arizona, it's probably going to take right around that to do it. And look, if it gets you Marvin Harrison, who are you going to take that's going to be better right now than Marvin Harrison? Probably nobody. So I think you might just have to kind of swallow that. And Brandon Beane's been aggressive in the past, so I wouldn't put it past him. But I think that the best thing that they could do is acquire someone like an Ayuk, who is a proven really good receiver, and to be your number one.
You had mentioned Godwin. I don't think he's on the market. I don't think that's where
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of throwing around names like of that caliber, so someone of the caliber of Chris Godwin, if they could, call up a team and say, "Hey, what can we give you for X receiver?"
I could see McLaurin being available because the Commanders don't give a darn. But he'd be your best guy to keep around to develop. And he's like super solid locker room guy. He's not somebody you would turn around and trade. The Bills would love that. Like, oh, here comes a guy who isn't an asshole. But Commanders are like, oh, we're gonna keep this guy because he's not an asshole. So that could be tricky there.
That's fair. And I don't think that the Bengals are going to be trading T. Higgins. I think they're going balls to the wall this year and trying to really make this the year that they, if Higgins is gone after this year, they're going to try to get one more year of making a run with this squad with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. Yeah. I like the offseason moves that they've made too. I like the addition of I think that Mike Gesicki as a vertical stretch tight end. They bring in Zach Moss to complement. You don't like the addition of Mike Gesicki?
Mike Gesicki, like, oh my God, look what he can do, and then he's not in the field because he can't block.
I mean,
Patriots couldn't find a role for this guy,
he's going to be basically just a power slot receiver for them, and that's fine. If they don't,
for what they have at receiver, that can work. It's like, oh, there's wide open space underneath.
Yeah, exactly. They brought in Geno Stone from Baltimore. They brought back Von Bell. Like, I like the moves that Cincinnati's made, and I think they're going to keep everybody there for this being like, hey, this is a really good shot that we have, and I don't think they're going to move on from Higgins. I don't know any other receiver that they could really try to go get, though, in terms of Buffalo. Off the top of my head, that would be of that wide receiver one caliber. Like, we saw, like, hey, you could have traded for Deontay Johnson for next to nothing. That would have been a fine addition. You could have gotten, a Jerry Jeudy for next to nothing, and that would have been a fine addition with the acquisition of another receiver to bring in, too. Like, right. I would have liked to have seen them be more aggressive when it came to trying to get somebody.
Trying to imagine, Josh Allen throwing the hero ball downfield to Jerry Jeudy, just like the 50-50 ball that's actually like a 10-90 ball because he's just like not really going up for it that hard. I'm trying to picture that. There's not a lot, like McLaurin you could actually see in that role. He can be vertical and he's gonna jump for it and stuff like that.
I mean, call Seattle and see what it'll take to get DK Metcalf.
They might be disappointed in DK up there or just looking to refresh things. That would be a possibility. Still not a replacement for Diggs, but at least there's a feasibility.
Oh, I think people look at the raw numbers from last year with Diggs and say, oh, he had a great year. He didn't have a 100-yard game after week 6.
Well, he was just in the doghouse and everything too at the end. So
sure. I think that they looked at that and said, okay, after October, we can replace that. we can figure out a way to replace that, and we'll see if they can. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where that goes. Obviously, being the me and Aaron Schatz, the two resident Josh Allen stands of NFL media, are very much going to be paying attention to that. Let's talk about the draft. I guess we're 2 weeks away from the draft, and you and I have grown to have like a mutual, just like, can we just fucking get this thing over with? I'm so tired of hearing about everything.
I think I do this on every podcast. I think I've done this with you before. Do you remember when it was in May?
No, I don't remember when it was. When was the last time it was in May?
It was in about 2013. Not only was it was like May 10th, it was like Mother's Day weekend.
Oh.
And it was the year that the top picks were Luke Jokel, the tackle.
Oh, yeah, it was like a bunch of offensive linemen.
Yes.
And the quarterback sucked. Yeah.
And I had to write about that for 3 additional weeks, and there were no quarterbacks. It was
who were the quarterbacks of that class?
Oh my God! I was Gabbert.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't Gabbert. Gabbert was
Gabbert was 2011, wasn't he? Yeah.
Right. Was it Bortles?
Was it EJ Manuel?
It was EJ Manuel, who could not throw the football, who had a hard time throwing footballs, which limited his ability as a quarterback.
I feel like that was EJ Manuel. Was Christian Ponder another one of them?
No, Christian Ponder was the same year as Cam.
Okay.
I think Bortles was that year. I'm
gonna look just because
Washington Commanders tight end Logan Thomas was that year.
Oh my Lord!
Who also could not throw a football like at all. Poor EJ. Oh my God! I'm trying to remember who was in the Senior Bowl that year with EJ.
Let's get this pulled up. So the first quarterback taken
from Syracuse, whose brother played defensive line.
So EJ Manuel was the first quarterback taken at 16 by the Bills. The next quarterback taken didn't come until, good Lord, where's this next quarterback?
Oh, it's a ways down.
It was Mike Glennon by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in round 3.
Oh my God, I remember seeing him at the Senior Bowl saying, oh my God, this is what we're looking at. And it just gets worse from there.
Oh yeah, it does. The next one, Matt Barkley, 4th round by the Eagles.
And he was
bad.
He was bad. He was real good his sophomore year, and then he just kept going downward.
Ryan Nassib was taken the pick after
his brother Carl
Nassib. After David Bakhtiari, the pick right after him.
yeah, he definitely existed.
Yes, he sure did. And then 2 other ones, Tyler Wilson to the Raiders and then Landry Jones to the Steelers in the 4th round. Just a horrible class of quarterbacks.
Horrible draft class. And they didn't draft until like mid-May.
That's awful.
And the NFL moved it back. I think everyone hated that. I think the teams themselves were like, what are we doing for weeks and weeks and weeks?
Right.
Analysis paralysis and waiting to get these guys in the building. So they moved it back. But oh my God, from a coverage standpoint, it was absolutely brutal. I got a lot of complaints. I think you got complaints, but this year's draft class is not that good.
Quarterback wise, I would agree.
I think the quarterbacks are good compared to a typical year, but like running backs are horrible.
Oh, running backs are bad.
Tight ends are boring. Except Bowers is good. There's like 1 or 2 other guys that are fine. The edges.
Yeah, it's like Brock Bowers and Ben Sano of Kansas State that are like the 2 tight ends. But even then, Sano is going to be a 3rd round pick maybe.
Yeah, and he's like a fullback. And the kid from Kansas also is a good tight end. I like him. Offensive line is strong. That's good.
I feel like offensive line is usually pretty strong though, and after the 4th round though, the talent pretty much falls off.
Right. I think like there's the second tier of wide receivers for me. It's just a bunch of fast guys.
Yeah.
You start telling me Lad McConkey, and I'm like, oh my God, is this we're really doing this? The kid from North Carolina, like okay.
Devontae Walker, yes.
Yeah. It's like, hey, he can run. That's good. Usually there's like these slot guys where it's like, oh, I'm really interested in like he's got these different things. Like, no, here's your 5'8" slot guy. Okay, we know he's not going to make it in the NFL. He's going to your mock draft post on 2 Deep Zone had me in shambles. I was laughing very hard at that. It was terrific. There's a select handful of like receivers that I like in terms of like slot, like Malik Washington out of Virginia. He seems fun. He's like a pure slot guy. That could be a good 4th round pick for somebody. But yeah, outside of that, man, once we get to mid-April, I'm just like, all right, I don't care about your pro days. I was at the combine. I know what you ran, what you did. Visits. I don't care. People analyzing visits. Now, does Jaden Daniels really want to go to Washington, or does he like his visit? Who gives a shit? Oh my God. This is unbearable. Jaden Daniels is in Washington for 1 day, but Drake May is going for 2.
What does this mean for the Washington Commanders in the future? They're like, dude, Oh my
Now,
God.
from a coverage standpoint, I mean, you still do a lot of Steelers or Bill specific stuff, right?
Yeah, so I'm the assistant editor for the Steelers site for SB Nation, so it's a lot of coverage there.
Right.
And then Bill's stuff, yeah, for A to Z, which is my main beat there, where this is basically what I have to talk about, and maybe that's why I'm so pissed off and so senile about it, just because I'm tired of it. Like what more can I say about? Yeah, in case you haven't heard, the Bills need a receiver. Here's my 9th piece about that. Like, dude, it's just it's unbearable.
Yeah, when you're on a team beat, you are trapped in that world.
Yeah,
and it's
very
like
much so.
Right, and it's very much along the lines of the Bills hosted this guy, and you write about it.
Yeah, and it's a whole lot of just you see what analysis paralysis. That's basically what it is at this point. It's just like let's just get this over with.
And repetition, and I'm sure like there's a couple of so the Bills hosted a cornerback, and so you grab your scouting report on the cornerback, which you probably reuse 3 or 4 times, and you look at it. It's like it's probably not that great. You're probably not super proud of it in the first place. It's like,
sure, yeah.
Watched the film of him, and I saw him for like 1 minute at the combine, and I threw this thing together, and it's like, all right, I got to put this in, and then you have to go back and get your last thing. Over the last 3 days, the Bills have hosted the following players, and like a robot could do this.
Yes, very much so. It's what. Luckily, with USA Today and Touchdown Wire with Doug, I can do feature stories on guys. I can do more league wide coverage, which I'm very thankful for. Or else I lose my mind.
Right.
So it's fun to be able to do all that as well. But yeah, I hate this time of year, but I'm gonna make it fun for us real quick. So what I have done, I've put together a list of names. Okay. Some of them are draft prospects in this year's class. Other ones are names I made up. You have to determine whether it's a name I made up or if it's a draft prospect. Okay.
Oh, good. I'm so horrible with names. This is going to be a train wreck. All right.
All right. Malik Mustafa.
He's a real ball player.
He is a real ball player. He's a safety for Wake Forest. So that is indeed a real ball player. Okay. Delmar Glaze.
I don't familiar with him. I'm going to say you made that up.
I did not make that up. He's a tackle from Maryland. Delmar Glaze. All right. Chi-Chi McKinnon.
Made up.
That is made up. I think if Chi-Chi McKinnon was a real player, he'd either be like a BJ Raji type nose tackle or some sort of or a defensive back that's not very good, but like you like that he's on your team because you like saying Chi-Chi McKinnon.
Chi-Chi McKinnon. I was thinking shifty running back.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of that name that you just keep hearing. And Chi-Chi McKinnon, off tackle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. He's shifty. That's why he's Chi-Chi.
Okay. I could see that. That's good. All right.
Jack
all right.
McKinnon too, I guess.
Ladae Track Griffin.
Ladae Track Griffin. I tell you, I'm trying to dig if I actually like did anything on these guys. There are guys in the 3rd round. I'll get their names mixed up. I'm going to say that's a real guy.
That is a real guy. He's wide receiver from Mississippi State.
Okay. I think I actually might have a report on him somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Trajan Jeffcoat.
Trajan Jeffcoat. All right. Now you could be trying to mess with me because there's been a lot of Jeffcoats in the NFL. It could be Jim Jeffcoat's kid. The Trajan is cool because it's got a real. I'm going to say that's a real guy.
That is a real guy. He's an edge rusher from Arkansas. All right. Josiah Hyperdunk. What were you going to say?
That's got to be a fake name.
That is a very fake name, yes.
Come on. Hyperdunk sounds a little bit like Humperdinck, like Prince Humperdinck from Princess Bride. Now I'm wondering if Trajan Jeffcoat is Jim Jeffcoat's kid, or hold on a second.
That's worth looking into.
Trajan, like the Emperor Jeffcoat.
Yeah, Trajan.
Trajan Jeffcoat dad, because other people have looked this up. No, his Chatrick Darby is his father.
Oh.
And he has 2 siblings, Renaya and Faquan. I would have liked all the names were wait, no, that's Chantrick Darby. That was the wrong person. Hold on. That wasn't Trajan. Okay, never mind. We're gonna change topic.
This is gonna be a passion project later on to find out if that's his real kid. All right. So we confirmed that Josiah Hyperdunk is not a real person.
Not real. Yeah.
A Hyperdunk is a basketball shoe made by Nike.
Neat.
Yeah. Demetrius Doug.
Demetrius Doug. Fake name.
That is that's a fake name. Yes, correct. Harrison Mevis.
I have no concept. Don't recognize him. I'm going to say it's a real guy.
It is a real guy. He's a kicker from Missouri.
Oh, I did no kick. I got to do my kickers. That's my reminder.
All right. Last one. Senquez Aberdeen, but his teammates call him Skittles. So Skittles Aberdeen.
But if this is a fake guy, my credit to you for coming up with a fake nickname for him. But I'm going to say it's a real guy.
It's a fake guy. I came up with Skittles
Good.
Aberdeen.
You got the Kool-Aid McKinstry thing.
That's where it came. Yeah, I was like, all right, what's another good one? The Skittles seems to fit. Skittles. I could see Skittles Aberdeen being a defensive back, though.
Yeah. And I could see Skittles being somebody's nickname.
Right, exactly. Especially, in today's world where everybody's got some sort of nickname. I think that would be he'd fit in very well. I don't know what Josiah Hyperdunk would be. That's an offensive line name if I've ever heard one.
Right. He's like
offensive line or tight end.
6'7" converted tight end. He was a tight end in high school. Came in as a slow-footed tight end, so they bulked him up. He was a left tackle in the Big 12. Where basically just stand up like this, be 300 pounds, 6'7". By the time you go around you, the ball's already gone. They already threw him out on the field. And the Seahawks drafted him in 2016 with Tom Cable. And he spent 2 years, and then they tried to move him to defensive line, and then he washed out the NFL.
I'm Demetrius Doug, I think he would be a receiver. That's where my head was at for Demetrius Doug.
Yeah. Although I'm thinking of Demetrius Veal.
Oh, that's a good name.
Like each of those names was enough that was a real guy.
Okay.
I think he was an edge rusher or a defensive line.
I would have to go back and look, but Demetrius Doug strikes me as somebody. Who does he play like? Not really like a fast guy, not very tall, just I don't know. Smaller slot, like a small power slot who'll just run you over.
Right. Like Zach Pascal.
That's a good, Zach Pascal's a good comp.
Doug, get a clutch 3rd and 4, 5 yard catch and fall.
What is the other one? We talked about Chi, Josiah. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. So
years ago, Bleacher Report, I'd have to write 300 scouting reports.
That's
300 of them because I would do pick by pick, and if I didn't have something ready to go during the pick, you can't just be like, "Well, I'll just look this guy up now in the middle of the round, etc." And I'd be really to the point where like the first 100 guys I really had in my brain, which I don't really have at this point right now. I have like 20 guys in my brain, and I have notes on another 100. But like guy 150, he'd get drafted, and I'd be like, I hope to God I wrote about him. And this is something I wrote. I watched film on him. Maybe I did a combine interview. I wrote that. I edited everything else like that. No memory of his brain. It could be Demetrius Doug. Oh, thank God. Demetrius Doug, defensive end, Valdosta State. I've got a thing on him.
Valdosta State.
And I would write it, and it's still on the internet somewhere. And you look at it, it's like I have no memory of writing that. I had no clear investment in this human.
Right. I just don't get. And look, obviously, people who cover college football are much more invested in these guys than people like me who are just casual college people until Senior Bowl rolls around and like, all right, who are these guys?
Right.
But once we get to like round 5, man, I was like, all right, dude, they could say just about anybody right now and I'd believe them. Like, tell me anything about them and I'm not going to question if that's a fact or not because I don't know any of these dudes.
And these super precise scouting reports.
Oh, yeah.
On these 5th round guys, and you talk about, his hip torsion and things like that. The general manager is like, he's a big old kid from Big Ten. I mean, really, no one's looking at this at that level except like this obsessive, weird thing that we do in the media where we take these kids and like, let me look at that film again or whatever. It's nuts. They hit the NFL and they're never talked about in any way like that.
And that's my biggest thing about it too, man, is like, I don't want to say it's wasted because obviously, people get paid for it and whatnot like that and people consume the content. But like talking about a 6th round tackle from San Jose State who's going to be on a practice squad for 3 years and then selling cars. Like, what are we doing?
Right. And like 375 words, not like, oh yeah, he's 6'8", 3-year starter. He had one game again. They played Michigan State, and he held his own against their edge, or whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing like that, but this like super minute detail. Like this person was really like on the sideline at Valdosta State during practices, taking notes on this guy, or something like that. And like I won't see a scouting report like that on Jordan Mailata.
Right.
I won't see a scouting. Deion Dawkins does not have scouting reports that are like circulating like this. This is a guy who's been a Pro Bowler and played in championship games. But we have these on the Valdosta State kid right now. That's just nuts. And it's like this weird traditional thing that's been going on now for like 20 years. That there's this whole industry around it. And that's what I was writing about. It's like I don't know who we're writing to anymore, man.
Yeah.
Like you're writing to Bills fans. Bills fans want to know that they hosted, Adonai Mitchell's here, that they want to see that. They're going to click it. They know it might not be fulfilling for you, but at least they give a crap.
Mm.
Like if you're saying, here are my top day 3 guards.
Oh God. Yeah, you couldn't. That's the thing. And I'm also not going to pretend to be like some like diehard expert on line play to be able to write 300 words about some dude from Fresno State who's started for his first year at Fresno last year after transferring from Roast Beef Tech that he was at for the first 3 years of his career. No way in hell, man. I can't do it.
I'll give you a secret. I have no idea how to watch and evaluate a safety at all.
That's an interesting one. Yeah.
I don't think anyone does. I mean, I Matt Bowen worked with us at Bleacher Report. He helped us with this. He played safety for 10 years in the NFL. He knows what he's watching. The idea that I can put on Georgia versus anybody and look at their deep safety, who's basically, sack, interception, he got tackled 20 miles before I could even get to the play. And get anything out of this. I've watched them at the Senior Bowl. So I've got no idea. Yeah, I remember like when Budda Baker and he's like at the line of scrimmage and he's getting sacks. Okay, I get that. I have no idea how to evaluate these humans, and yet these scouting reports appear. Now I'm good with offensive linemen. I'm pretty good with them, but like cornerbacks, it's like, is the guy covered or isn't he covered? Is he covered or isn't he covered?
Right.
Was the guy Roma Dunze, or was he like Joe Schmo? Was he Vanderpump? Whatever.
Josiah Hyperdunk.
Hyperdunk.
Like I think obviously like the easiest ones for me at least are like, okay, I'll watch a quarterback and I can tell you if he's good or not.
Yeah.
I can watch a receiver and say, okay, I think he'll be good at the next level or not. Tight ends. The skill position guys, those are pretty easy. Cornerbacks, linebackers. But yeah, I think offensive line, I'm like, dude. Left tackle, like tackles, sure. Guards,
it's hard.
I don't know.
Guards is really hard. I don't have tons and tons of, behind, coach's film available to kind of see them at guard.
Yeah.
If I'm working off a game take, I'm just like, I need to see pancakes, or I need to see him get beat.
Yeah. It's one thing if it's Quentin Nelson pulling and going to the other side and going up the B gap and just slaughtering 3 dudes. Like, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Right. But like just general, like, oh, look at his hip torsion there. Like, okay, dude, cool. Right. I'm glad that you know what you're looking for when it comes to this stuff, because it's that I think the quarterback conversation is another thing that really annoys me about draft time, because I understand it's the most important position in sports. I get that, but the fact that we have to talk all these dudes up like they could all be stars when maybe 2 of them are going to be good, that also crawls under my skin. I'm just like, look, probably like 8 to 12 will get drafted. One of them might be pretty good. 2 of them might be okay. Yeah, it's solid start. The rest of them are clipboard holders for 5 years, practice squad travelees, and that's that. Preseason heroes that you're like, oh yeah, I remember him at Boise State. That's cool to see that he's still in the league.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, literally.
I remember Boise State. Yeah, you're prematurely old in that respect. But like it I was talking on the Discord with the guys from the old Football Outsiders group, the DVOA Diaspora Discord. And 2021, I think, really broke me in a lot of ways, and that was the year after the 2020 season where everything was COVID. And like, I'm trying to say something about Trey Lance, who I never laid eyes on ever, and I'm grabbing 2019 film against South Dakota, and it is a full year old, and it is the Missouri Valley Conference, and I'm watching him run around and throw passes. Like, I'm really supposed to evaluate this. And then Zach Wilson comes up there, and I go on this all the time. BYU played the most insane schedule in the history of insane schedule. Everyone canceled on them because of the COVID. and they UTSA, Rice,
Sam Houston State will play you.
State, right. And he's just out there uncorking bombs against these teams. And I would look
Yeah.
They played Boise State, so I do a little bit of research. Like, man, he looked good against Boise State. 4 guys were quarantined in the secondary that so to do real draft coverage in 2021, like you kind of literally had to look at the schedule and say, these were the real teams they played that were at full strength, that didn't have half the guys in quarantine, that weren't playing a 3-game schedule, all this other stuff. And then you can look at those. And yet I would look at the media coverage of, I'm not talking about 6th-round guards, whatever.
Right.
Lance and Wilson. And I'd say, where the hell are you getting this information about? And they're talking about, the decisiveness, or when you're looking off the primary read, second read, and resetting the feet and everything. He is playing Sam Houston State scout team. You're just acting like, well, this is Georgia he's facing, and he's like,
right.
And it's just like I think a little part of me at that point said, you know what, I'm done pretending. And I think at a certain level, I'm not, you and I we're watching stuff, we're doing stats. I have a big stat thing dropping. The level of being like, yeah, you know what, I lock and load. I know this. Josh Allen's going to be a bust. Like that just evaporated from my consciousness.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And all of these guys who are like Bo Nix, who's played like 9 years in college, and everybody's like, "Oh, here he comes." I'm like, okay. If he was any good, he would have came out 2 years ago. Like, I'm not taking Bo Nix seriously.
Oh, I don't know, because he got money now. You get money now.
That's true. Yeah, I guess the NIL money changes things a little bit. That is
a little bit, right? And Nix, he pulled his career together. I think he looks pretty good on film. It was Rattler who
Rattler was the random one.
He's pretty random because, again, like I guess it was when he entered college, like 2012 or whatever, he had these phenomenal seasons. And he really looks bad now. But like last year, the 2022, he looked pretty good for a while. I was like, oh, he's put it together, and then he looked bad. But yeah, you're looking at these 6-year guys.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, am I watching what should have been his second season in the NFL, but it's in the ACC? And
yes. Just tearing up the defenses of Duke. I'm like, all right, dude, cool, nice job.
Right? No, that's exactly it. And and I'm supposed to be impressed by this.
Right.
Travis is a little bit like that. Jordan Travis from Florida State.
Oh, that's the Florida State guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and before he got hurt, and it's like some of this film is pretty darn impressive. Like he's older than Joe Burrow.
Is he really?
No, that might be wrong, but like he's older than, I don't know. He's like 20.
Some NFL quarterbacks, yeah.
He's been older than several. CJ Stroud, certainly.
That was my thing with this when the Steelers drafted Pickett, and I had to suffer through the 2 worst years of my fandom in the history of sports. But which, by the way, you're an Eagles guy. Enjoy that. Yes, very much so. Although I can see a world where all those Pickett stands travel over to Philadelphia with you, and then Jalen Hurts is going to throw like 2 interceptions in week 4, and all these put him in Sirianni. Put in Pickett. That's going to be great. I can't wait.
That will happen. No.
But like he was in college for 5 years. He was good for 1 of them, and everybody's like, "Oh, here he comes, the 5th-year senior who's 24." I'm like, all right, dude. Well, we'll see. I don't see why we can't do the draft like today. Like if they said, all right, we're going to move the draft up to April 10th, cool. Thank God. I'm ready for that.
Yeah, and I think the teams would agree to it. I think a lot of teams say at this point their process is done. Mm-hmm. They did draft. They got through the pro days. The pro days are consolidating. If you notice, like some of these schools, like the Big 12, have like one big mini combine. That's happening. Teams are doing more Zoom interviews and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily like they have to bring these kids in for a visit. I think the NFL would look at the college basketball championship and say, get that done so we're not competing for eyeballs, and then put it right there, which would be this weekend, which would be fine. And, the NFL likes having that big season, that big off season where there's always something coming. So that's
that's fair.
But like, I don't know. It's done. I don't think we're getting anything.
No new information is going to get to us between now and draft night on any of these dudes, unless you're like, unless a kid messes up, like if you're a Tavondre Sweat and you get a DWI. All right, that was stupid of you 2 weeks before the draft. Right. Don't do that. Right. But for the most part, man, you're not learning anything new about these players. So
it's revving, and I think readers and fans have a certain level of fatigue. Like, okay, we're done. We're if you're getting these clicks, it's sort of out of obligation or because it's there or whatever. By the way, are you going to be able to get out to Latrobe for the Russell Wilson experience?
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I gotta try and get credentialed out there.
Oh, you absolutely can. Absolutely.
Right.
I
I
don't
used to
see
get
that
there.
being an issue.
Yeah, I used to know the people there. I'm gonna have to go hunt down all my old stuff here. But like, I stopped going out to Pittsburgh because like the media access wasn't great, and it's like you're either watching Roethlisberger. It's like I've seen Roethlisberger,
Right.
or it was like Kenny Pickett, and it was quarantine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to get out to Latrobe for a couple days and see that chaos.
Yeah, no, I will be there for several days. So it'll be a lot of fun seeing Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, which very, very intrigued am I. Like this is like I am excited. I don't expect them to, turn into top 10 quarterbacks, but if they're the 17th or 18th best quarterback in the league, sign me up, man. If that defense is good, I'm ready. They can win 11 games with that. They won 10 last year with the worst quarterbacks in football. I'm in. Very much ready.
It'll be watchable. It'll be a very watchable training camp.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if Fields is like looking noticeably better than Wilson, and everybody's like, maybe they start Justin Fields week 1.
I don't hate the idea because one has like a 10% chance of a future.
Sure.
And one has a 0% chance of a future.
Yeah. One of them's 35 and isn't going to be a long-term answer.
Right. So I'm putting on the list of like to-do list for like late spring is to try to like set up for camp. I'm not going out for mini camp or anything.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah.
July in late.
I'll definitely be at several days of Steelers camp. I'm going to try to go up to Bills camp for a day. I was planning to do it last year, and then I got the Steelers gig behind the steel curtain, so I had to scrap those so I could focus more on the Steelers stuff. But I would like to go to Bills camp for at least a day. I think that would be fun, depending on what the Commanders do. Like I'm not far enough away from Washington where that would be too much of a hassle to go. So there's a few on my radar that I wouldn't mind going to.
Right. Washington, I'm wondering if they're doing an Ashburn or if they're still going to Richmond. I think they're in Ashburn now.
I think they were in Ashburn last year, weren't they?
They were in Ashburn last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like suburban nightmarescape.
It was hilarious. Like 2 years ago when like the training camp pictures came out, there's like 3 people there. You saw Carson Wentz walking past a crowd of nobody.
Right.
Like, oh no.
They're like over by the airport, but like it's in this place where there's like nothing. It's not like, hey, after the practice we can go do something. I mean, Latrobe isn't exactly a laugh riot of a place, but you can go into the countryside a little bit, things like that. Like you're out in the wilderness, like Ashburn, you're just like in like this suburban scrawl of nothing,
right.
And you're not even that close to the city. I don't think Washington people want to drive all the way out and then drive back in.
Right.
Do the Bills still do it at the college, or are they in the team headquarters now?
I want to say the college. I haven't been to Bills camp yet, so this will be a first for me. I would have to look into that. I'll shoot Matt Perino a text and figure out what that situation is. But yeah, I'd like to go up for a day just to see everything up close because, like I said, I haven't done theirs yet, and it would be a fun experience. So yeah. But yeah, I will definitely be at multiple days of a Steelers camp. Last year, Jarrett Bell was there on one of the days that I was there, and they gave me his credential and him my credential. They got us confused because I put it under USA Today to go up there last year. Because it's before I got the gig, and he also works there. So it was a fun little. That was the first time we met in person too. It was like Jarrett Bell. He's like Jarrett Bailey, I assume. It was
right.
Fun little laugh. So it was a good time. But yeah, no, that'll be fun. Let me know what days you decide once that time comes, and we will definitely that'll be a good day.
You gotta get some of that Jarrett Bell level access too, because that's the one.
Oh yeah.
Like you're eating lunch with Tomlin as opposed to like standing, on the sideline hoping.
him and I were talking on the sideline, and our ref came over to us, and he's like, "Guys, could you just move a little bit to the left? Mike Tomlin wants to be able to see the clock." We're like, "Yep, sorry."
Oh gosh.
Whoops.
Well, at least you didn't get shouted at from like across the field.
Yeah, that's always a plus. Don't want to irritate Mike Tomlin. That's the last, especially in person. But what do you have coming on Too Deep Zone? That's I assume it's gonna continue making me giggle.
Well, tomorrow's is more serious because I am doing stats on all these quarterbacks.
Cool.
Okay, because I'm done with like his footwork and everything like that. Stats on Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, the other guy, and some of the other guys, Penix, and a couple of the lower guys. So you can see them all kinds of breakdowns, third down breakdowns, 15+ air yard breakdowns.
Wow.
Pressure rate, passing when pressured, a lot of things like that. So you can kind of see how these guys go. Make your own decisions, conclusions based on stats. That's this. Then I got some stuff coming next week. Draft week is the big thing because we do our hoo-ha, and I will be doing draft grades after the draft. I will be like writing about the first round after the first round. So you wake up Friday morning and there's all my goofy thoughts in there. And I got this giant team needs document that is turned into freaking Anna Karenina. I try to explain the needs of all 32 teams. I'm like, why did I do? I'm self-employed now. I don't have to do this.
Just writing the Iliad of team needs for
If
everything.
I did it as a poem, that would be something. Next year, I will do team needs as an epic poem.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that one's yours to keep. It's a gift from me to you. That's terrific. Oh,
what do
that's
you got
fun. My feature on Kalen Carson, the corner from Wake Forest, is out. I got a feature on Jamari Thrash. Also, by the way, great name. Receiver from Louisville, so that'll be coming out soon.
Yeah, he's a good ball. He's a good.
He's good. I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes. And then later in this week, we're waiting on the official day, but I'll be sitting down with new Steelers linebacker Patrick Queen, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's a good one. Excellent.
Yeah, so that'll all be coming, whether it's on USA Today, Behind the Steel Curtain, here on the YouTube, or if you're listening to it as a podcast. Bunch of fun stuff from me. So, Mike, I always appreciate talking to you, my friend. It's always a pleasure as we, again, just try to grind through to get the draft done, and then, just get to camp. Just get me to July at this point. If I can get to late July, it's 3.5 months. I'm good.
Right. How hard are they going to make you work in that dead zone of like May and June?
We're gonna find out.
Yeah,
we're gonna see. I came on like 2 weeks before camp last year, so we're gonna find out. I can't imagine it's gonna be, there's not gonna be too much hard hitting stuff unless a trade happens or noteworthy things. So, I said, we're gonna find out.
I get to switch into historical mode a little bit and write about all-time quarterbacks and things like that.
Yeah.
But hopefully get a little downtime too.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find something to do in the meantime. I'll spend a lot of time at PNC Park this summer watching the Pirates actually be good, so that'll be nice.
Okay.
We'll see where the wind takes me, but for right now, just trying to get through it. Day at a time is how we're taking this. But however you're watching, listening, please like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff. Leave a review, Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever it may be, and then read all of our stuff because it helps feed us, and that's always good. So. Mike, appreciate you. Love you to death. Talk to you soon.
Later, man.